Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Vicky and I'm the Vice President of the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON Committee. I'm just going to be supporting with the facilitation of this session, and I'll be handing the floor over to Davide, the President, very shortly. Just to ask you to please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And also, if you want to rename yourselves, you can mark your names and the names of your organizations. And we'll be explaining to you also when there are time for questions during the session. So if we are all here, just there's a couple more people joining us at the moment, I will hand the floor over to Davide, who's the chairperson of the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON Committee.
Thank you, Vicky, and I'll add to your introduction the fact that if you can just, I know that we are all used to have meetings on Zoom nowadays, but from time to time, if you turn on your camera, that will be nice and will make our meeting more friendly, so we can see you, and then you can turn off your camera. And so welcome once again, everybody. I'm really happy that you are all here, and we have a lot of people participating today. As you know, the main objective of this webinar today, of this presentation, is to reconnect or to connect in a different way the NGOs in official partnership with UNESCO, with the liaison, the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON Committee, and with UNESCO Secretariat, as well as regional offices. We are very happy and honored to have you here today, because since the very first day of our mandate, we have putting a lot of effort in trying to come to you to give you a little bit more the keys to unlock your cooperation with UNESCO. As you might know, as of today, there are 406 NGOs that are in official partnership of UNESCO, and you are part of this community. And in our point of view, a community is it's really made up of the active participation of each of their members. And of course, members, to be active and to be able to participate, they need to be informed, they need to be to feel part of this community. So I really hope that this is a little step towards a more efficient collective cooperation, and we have decided to start with those regions where NGOs are underrepresented, meaning that, as you might know, most of NGOs, especially international NGOs, are based in Europe. But for us, it's really important to let you feel and let you understand that the Liaison Committee and the global family of NGOs is made up really of each of you, and that's why for us it's really important to start with those that are a little bit far from the center, because in our point of view, the center is not Paris, is not the UNESCO headquarters, but the center is everywhere there is an NGO in official partnership of UNESCO. So and you are the center, and we hope to have a multi-centered NGO community. So thank you very much once again. And I will leave the floor and I will come back later on. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you, Davide. So I hand the floor then over to the office to talk about the statutory framework of UNESCO's partnership with NGOs.
So thank you, Vicky, for giving us the floor. I will make just a short introduction and then leave my colleague to make the presentation. Dear all, I'm very, very pleased to take part in this meeting and have the opportunity to exchange with NGO partners from the Asian Pacific region with which we are not used to interact frequently. So it's a very great opportunity. Allow me first to introduce myself. I'm Sabina Colombo. I'm the head of the unit for civil society partnership within the division for partnership in the headquarters, and we are part of the Bureau for Strategic Planning. The team of the unit is quite small. It's composed, working with me, there are 3 people. I named them: Ilona Genewa, Armini Brizimovic, and Luis Alberto Vargas Rojas, that is with me today and will make the presentation immediately after. The unit, for those that are not familiar with, is in fact your institutional contact with the organization as far as your official partnership is concerned. Some of you have direct contact with program sectors or with field offices, but as far as your official partnership is concerned, all the communication comes through us. We are also, of course, at your disposal to guide you, to accompany you in your involvement and engagement within the life of our organization. And we will be ready, but we can discuss this later, to put you in contact at the appropriate moment with colleagues in the program sectors in the field office. And in this regard, maybe I just take this opportunity to inform you in advance that we are currently planning to organize a series of webinars, which will likely kick off in September, that are intended to provide to all NGO partners with comprehensive information on specific UNESCO's flagship and priority programs, and on how NGOs can be involved. So I hope that you will benefit from that starting in September. Now back to this Asia Pacific regional webinar. I would like to thank, of course, the host today, the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON for this initiative, which in fact converges with our efforts within the sector to strengthen the cooperation with our NGO partners from all regions. I hope that this Asia and Pacific meeting will be as successful as the previous one. I also wish to thank you immediately from the beginning, our colleagues. We will have with us 2 field offices, the field offices in Bangkok and Beijing, which are present with us today and will be contributed to this discussion and sharing with us about their work and experience at the regional level. I will maybe wish to clarify, just before giving the floor to Luis Alberto, that our presentation today is just to provide an overview of UNESCO institutional framework for cooperation with NGO, and maybe to refresh some information that you don't have now about your official partnership with UNESCO. But we remain available to clarify any aspect of these official partnerships afterwards during the discussion, or maybe later on a bilateral basis. Thank you again, and I now give the floor to my colleague Luis Alberto for the presentation.
Thank you, Sabina. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. I will now be sharing my screen so you can, oh, okay, host, please allow me to share the screen. Okay. Okay. Good. Can you see it? Good. Thank you. Well, I will turn off my camera quickly. So we don't have, okay, there you go. Well, as you may know, the UNESCO was one of the first UN agencies to recognize the importance of NGO participation in its activities and to establish strong partnerships with many of them. In the past, the organization played, in fact, a leading role in the creation of many NGOs in order to strengthen the role of civil society in the pursuit of its goals. Since UNESCO has established collaborations with a wide range of NGOs from around the world and counts today with a global network of NGOs associated with its work, which covers the full range of its mandate. To this date, the organization has been joining forces with a wide range of partners through different forms of engagement, both financial and non-financial, which is an approach embodied in the Global Partnership Strategy, whose last update in 2019 captures new thinking on building a more open, engaging, and outward-looking UNESCO, which is a priority of our Director General. Now, the current statutory framework for cooperation with non-governmental organizations is set in the directives concerning UNESCO's partnerships with non-governmental organizations, which was adopted by member states in 2011 and replaced the previous iterations adopted in 1995 and amended in 2001 and 2007, which was in fact the framework under some of your organizations first established an official relationship with UNESCO. Now, these new directives established two categories of official partnership, which replaced the former categories A, B, C, operational relations, and so on. And they established as well a set of advantages and obligations for NGOs in official partnership. If you wish, after the webinar, we can share with you a practical guide, which we have prepared for NGOs which are recently admitted to official partnership, in which the advantages and obligations are summarized. Now, the current categories are the consultative status, which is designed to enable the organization to establish and maintain flexible and dynamic partnerships with organizations of civil society that are active in UNESCO's field of competence. And there's also the associate status, which involves a close and sustained cooperation and is only open to international or regional organizations, which have already been in official partnerships, that is consultative status, for at least 2 years. Now, these organizations which are welcome can apply to associate partnership usually have a proven competence in an important field of UNESCO's competence and have a record of regular major contributions to UNESCO's implementing program. Now, it is worth mentioning that the collaborations with NGOs is not necessarily tied to an official partnership, but rather to the NGO's expertise in one or more of UNESCO's field of competence. In this sense, more than a simple accreditation, the establishment of an official partnership is in fact a mutual commitment to cooperate and work together in the organization's field of competence. It is often the recognition of an already established relationship between UNESCO and the organization concerned. Now, we will now briefly have a look at the current state of the network of official partnerships. At the moment, UNESCO is in official partnership with 406 non-governmental organizations, of which 65 hold associate status and 341 hold consultative status. Now, 313 of these, in the bottom, the total, are international NGOs, while 65 are regional, and 29 are national. Now, in the Asia Pacific region, we have 28 NGOs in official partnership, of which 13 are international, are considered international NGOs. 8 are considered regional and 7 are national. Now, please kindly note that this table is only indicative of where NGOs have their headquarters and does not necessarily reflect their presence and work throughout the world. In fact, international NGOs, whether based in Asia and in the Pacific region or in any other region, as well as Asian Pacific regional NGOs, have in many cases members or chapters in many of the countries within the ASPEC region and in other regions. And also the Europe region, which also includes Canada and the United States, in the case of international NGOs, has a large amount of international NGOs, because very often international NGOs choose to have their seat close to the seat of the international organizations, but they work and have presence around the world. Now, zooming in the ASPEC region, we have 6 NGOs based in India, 3 in Australia, 3 in the People's Republic of China, 3 in Malaysia, 3 in the Philippines, 3 in the Republic of Korea, 2 in Thailand, 1 in Bangladesh, 1 in Fiji, which is today with us, 1 in Japan, 1 in Mongolia, and 1 in Singapore. Now, going back to the wording and the meat of the directives, I will briefly explain the modalities of cooperation. So the directives provide for 2 types of cooperation, or ways for official NGO partners to cooperate with UNESCO. Very evidently, bilateral cooperation, that is between the NGO and UNESCO, and unique to UNESCO, the collective mechanisms of cooperation. Now, the bilateral cooperation involves working with UNESCO in program implementation, advocacy, sharing expertise and operational capacities, and dissemination of information, among other possible activities. So, for instance, in our network, we have visual NGO partners which are either have a strong advocacy presence in New York and Geneva, or which influence decision making within countries, and support UNESCO's mandate through this kind of work. We also have other NGOs which have a financial muscle or have a strong field presence, and which help our field offices develop or implement projects on the ground. Then we also have other NGOs which have a particular expertise on issues related to UNESCO's mandate or specific programs, and they support our work with their research and or policy development capacities, and so on. So all these are forms of engagement with our organization, of contributing with resources, both financial and non-financial. And this is the kind of engagement that we first referred when mentioning earlier the comprehensive partnership strategy. Now, as you may know, UNESCO has recently adopted its medium-term strategy, which we call C4 in UNESCO jargon, the medium-term strategy for the next 8 years, in which it places a key importance on partnerships for an agile and efficient UNESCO. And our NGO partners have a key role to play in these. So in this sense, there is an opportunity to be seized in bringing NGOs closer to our program, which of course involves direct collaboration of NGOs with the program sectors and or field offices. Now, the webinar series referred to you by Sabina in the introduction on NGOs engagement around UNESCO flagship and priority programs is actually aiming particularly at that. Now, to better understand how to do the bilateral cooperation, let us now see a simplified but non-official representation of the general structure of the organization. Now, as you may know, UNESCO has a unique and fivefold mandate in education, natural sciences, social and human sciences, culture, and in communication and information. And we also have the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, sorry. And this is reflected in its overall structure, which is made up of 5 main program sectors, as I mentioned, along with the IOC, with the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, IOC, which are supported by the program-related services at headquarters and have a presence in all regions through UNESCO's field offices. Now, the program-related services include, among others, the sector of Priority Africa and External Relations, PAX in UNESCO jargon, and the Bureau of Strategic Planning to which our unit belongs, and of course the administrative services. Now, focusing now specifically in the Asia and the Pacific region, we see that it counts with a large network of UNESCO field offices, which implement UNESCO's program on the ground. As you can see in the map, these we have 7 cluster and regional offices, 2 of which are present today with us. We also have 2 national offices and 2 antennas. Now you will have the opportunity to hear from our colleagues who will tell us about the work of their cluster offices. Now, all these entities constitute potential points of entry for your NGOs to collaborate with UNESCO in the Asia Pacific region. The sectors and field offices, which are usually glad to benefit from your support, and our unit stands ready to accompany your NGO in liaison with the relevant program sectors and field offices. Now let's focus on the collective cooperation, specifically the collective cooperation mechanisms. Now, beyond the bilateral cooperation between each NGO and UNESCO, the directives also foresee 2 collective mechanisms for cooperation, which, as mentioned before, are unique to UNESCO within the UN system. And these are the International Conference of NGOs, or ICNGO, as it is called in the UNESCO jargon, specifically by the community of NGOs. Actually, they coined this term, and the UNESCO, the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON Committee, which is hosting this event today. And I will tell you a bit more next about these. Now, the International Conference of NGOs brings together all NGOs in official partnerships every 2 years to review the state of collective cooperation and to conduct collective consultations on the main lines of UNESCO's program. It also elects the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON Committee, and it is a valuable opportunity for NGOs that come to this event to network among themselves, among official NGO partners, and is also a good occasion for liaising with the UNESCO Secretariat in HQ. Now, the ICNGO, as I mentioned before, coined by the NGO community, this acronym, is usually held at UNESCO headquarters in Paris, and the next edition is scheduled for 14 to 16 December this year. You will be informed in due time, but please save the date. You're actually hearing this before anyone else outside the Secretariat. And all efforts are being made so it can be a hybrid conference. So people who cannot come to HQ can also participate. But COVID permitting, participating in presentia is always advisable for the reasons I mentioned before. Now, let's focus now on the NGO-UNESCO LIAISON Committee, which is an elected body established by the directives. And I stress again, this is unique in the UN system, that there is a decision and there's a statutory framework established by the member states to create these kind of bodies to give the forum for NGOs, official NGOs, partners to work together and make a joint contribution to the work of the organization. Now, the main function of the NGO LIAISON Committee is to represent the collective interest of the community of official NGO partners with regard to UNESCO and ensure the proper function and efficiency of the collective partnership. Now, among others, the committee is entrusted to organize the international forums of NGOs on a UNESCO priority issue in cooperation with UNESCO Secretariat. These forums are also established by the directives. The NGO LIAISON Committee also ensures that the collective opinions of NGOs are reflected by UNESCO in the preparation of its draft program. Now, so said simply, the Liaison Committee is a platform linking the UNESCO Secretariat or UNESCO itself, including its governing bodies, with its official NGO partners. Now, I will briefly explain its composition. So, as per the directives, it is chaired ex officio by the elected chairperson of the ICNGO, who is elected nominally, and is made up of 10 NGOs in official partnership, All these are, as I mentioned before, elected by the ICNGO, and they're elected for a term of office of 2 years, immediately renewable once. Now, the composition of the committee was completely redesigned by the 2011 directives in order to, or aiming to ensure a diverse representation and to achieve a more representative, diversified, and balanced committee. So you have NGOs elected by region, that is the region in which they have their headquarters, and by status, which does not mean, however, that NGOs from a region elected from a region represent that region. And now, almost to finish, I will tell you a bit more about I will complement what Sabina told you about the role of our unit. So additional to being institutionally entrusted with the management of all official partnerships with NGOs, which includes official communications, dealing with the annual ground passes, coordinating the NGO participation in UNESCO governing body sessions, that is the General Conference every 2 years, and the Executive Board twice a year, among other tasks and responsibilities related with this institutional management of the partnerships. The Unit for Civil Society partnership, partnerships which is called CSP in UNESCO jargon, acts as a focal point and resource service for UNESCO's institutional relations with NGOs in general. So that is official NGO partners and non-official NGO partners as well. We also serve as secretariat of the Executive Board's Committee on Non-Governmental Partners, which is the subsidiary body of the Executive Board, which deals with the NGO, with the work and relations of UNESCO with NGOs, with non-governmental partners. We're also in charge of the coordination of the collective mechanisms established under directives. So that includes the relations with the liaison committee and organizing jointly with the liaison committee the NGO forums. So in that respect, our unit is the main interlocutor of the liaison committee within the secretariat, and a launching pad of sorts of its cooperation with program sectors, field offices, and other relevant services within the organization. With these, we have come to an end of our presentation, but of course we remain available for any question or request for further information, be it today or in the future. You have on the screen our email, from which you receive all official communications. So save it so or communications don't end up in spam and you missed unimportant information or announcements. And you will also be receiving from this email address our presentation and the practical guide mentioned earlier. Thank you all now very much for your kind attention, and I'll give the floor back to our moderator. Thank you very much. Vicky, over to you.
Thank you, Luis Alberto. Thank you, Sabina, for sharing that information with us, which is really very valuable and allows us to understand a lot more how everything works. Just to remind everybody that we'll take questions after the next presentation. So now we're going to present to you about the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee, about the role, the strategy, and the different actions. So both Davide and I will be presenting this slide to you. And after this session, then we will have some time for your questions and answers. Okay, thank you, Davide, for sharing the screen. So I will start then by presenting a bit about the liaison committee, and then I'll hand over the slides to Davide. So just to share with you then a bit about the objectives of the regional webinars. Davide already shared a bit about this in his original presentation at the beginning. It's just then so that we can have an opportunity to meet with you and to share more about the work of the liaison committee and about the work of the unit. And so there's opportunities also to meet with the different UNESCO offices which can be found in your region. So Davide, if you could just go to the next slide. Thank you. And to explain to you then a bit about we can go to the next slide. The composition of the liaison committee. So as already mentioned by Luis Alberto, it's an elected committee. And the chairperson of that committee is Mr. Davide Grosso, who's already spoken to you. We also have Mr. Nick Newland from the Associated Country Women of the World, Ms. Nancy Lizardo from the Latin American Campaign for the Right to Education, myself for the Coordinating Committee for International Voluntary Service, Mr. Christian Breuil from the World Committee for Lifelong Learning, Mr. Philippe Bosson from the International Council of Organizations for Folklore Festivals and Folk Art, Mr. Christian Grégoire Epoumin from the Fédération africaine des associations des parents d'élèves et étudiants, the FAPE, Ms. Teresa Kaki from the International Council of Associations for Science Education, Ms. Petia Zelensky from the Sozopol Foundation, Ms. Marie-Claude Machon-Honoré from the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, and Ms. Thais Quiros from the World Organization of the Scout Movement. So the tasks of the committee, which are defined by the directives, are to represent the interests of all NGO partners in regard to UNESCO, to work on the efficiency of partnership to ensure the proper functioning and efficiency of the partnership between the community of NGO partners and UNESCO, to ensure that the opinions of NGOs are taken collectively and are reflected in the UNESCO preparation of its draft programme. Also to ensure exchange of information with the non-governmental community it represents, and in this connection promote consultation among NGOs at all levels. We also have the ICNGO, which has resolutions, so it's the International Conference of NGOs, the resolutions which issued each 2 years, and it also prepares the subsequent session of the International Conference in consultation with UNESCO. The committee organises forums in consultation with the UNESCO Secretariat, and these are at least 2 NGO forums per year on a normal year, and they're based around a UNESCO priority issue. And we have the NGP committee, so we contribute to the preparations for the debates of the Executive Board's Committee on Non-Governmental Partners, the NGP, and in particular promoting the participation of a large number of NGOs. Our strategic approaches then are to encourage the participation of new organisations, to lead and coordinate the collective work of NGOs, to promote inclusiveness and diversity, and to promote continuous communication between the NGOs and the NGO community, and to strengthen the interaction and partnership with UNESCO, and to foster the visibility of the actions and good practices of NGOs in official partnership, and to encourage a stronger participation of young people. That's something we've really worked on as well in this last mandate. I'll explain a bit more about that shortly. As I mentioned before, one of the tasks of the committee is to organise NGO forums, and here you have a list of the last 12 forums which have been organised since 2013. As you can see, they've taken place in different countries around the world and on different themes, which, as I also mentioned, are linked to UNESCO priorities. So the last forum that was organised was last year, sorry, there's an error in the date, so it was 2021, and it was the Global Citizenship Forum, which you can find information in any case about all of these forums on the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee website. Other tasks that we have then is the CCNGO education, and we're a member of that group, and so we have a representative, Marie-Claude Machon-Honoré, who's part of the elected members of the committee that represents the committee in that space. We also have communication, so Nick Newland is specifically working on the communication for the liaison committee. We have a new website and on also updating the different social networks through Twitter, Facebook, etc. There's also the question of the budget. So we have our treasurer, Mr. Philippe Bosson, who oversees that. There's voluntary contributions that we ask from the NGOs and official partnership, and also contribution from UNESCO to our budget. And we organise different events, so celebration of international days, and any other proposals that come up from the NGOs and official partnership. Okay, so with this then I will hand the floor over to Davide. He will give you more details about the items that we've already mentioned. Davide?
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for this introduction, and I just want to repeat what you just said to our to the participants of this webinar. We know that we are giving a lot of information, but no worries, because this is going to be recorded, so you will have the possibility to check those information afterwards on our YouTube channel. But really for us is to give as much overview as possible, and then we are always happy to continue the discussion with all of you in the weeks, in the days, and in the months to come. So after having given you this complete overview of the directives and of the role of the committee, what we have done and what we are planning to do. In this mandate, the current liaison committee, for which I'm the chairperson, was elected in December 2020. As Vicky said, the main organ that decides the direction of where the committee goes is the International Conference of NGOs that was held in Paris, December 2020, which elected this committee and which elaborated a set of recommendations. One of the points of this recommendation was to try to mobilize NGOs in the framework of the UNESCO 75th anniversary. So after having discussed this internally at the committee decided that instead of doing just a celebration for the 75th anniversary of the UNESCO, we used this opportunity to actually find a different way to mobilize, and especially to mobilize youth. So we actually sent a call, which I guess all of you have received in last year, and we asked NGOs in official partnership to nominate a person, a young person, to be part of a group which would have elaborated a way to, on one hand, celebrate the 75th anniversary, but on the other hand, and even most important, I would say, to tell us, to tell the committee and to tell the community of NGOs what to do to empower youth. This resulted in the production of a youth position paper and advocacy guidelines, which you can check on our website and you can as well endorse. We are currently also thinking about ways on how to revival this group, because this group had and still has a lot of energy. So you will you can check the website and you will have some more information very soon from our side. Vicky also mentioned that the NGOs, and so I'm talking to you, NGOs, they can propose a celebration of international days, meaning that they can start thinking together about how to join forces to the organization and the celebration of the many international days that are promoted and promoted by UN and especially by UNESCO. In this case, I want just to mention two groups. So there were two groups of NGOs that work under the umbrella of the international of the liaison committee. One is a group working around the International Day of Peace. Is a group that is working since many years. And have done, this group has done many celebration, but also they are now in the process of publication, the publication of a book of what they've done in the past. And the group is also open to newcomers. So once again, this is on our website. There are the coordinates of the people working on this, so do not hesitate. And another example, which is even more work in progress, because there is something foreseen by the end of the year. There is another group of NGOs that is working around celebration of the International Day of Girl Child. And there is a plan to have an event built by NGOs with NGOs, where NGOs that are interested and working in the field can give their contribution. So if you are interested, just check the dedicated page on our website. And these are just two examples of what can be done in the framework of collective cooperation, because just bear in mind that you are part of the same community, and sometimes things that have been done within the same community and under the umbrella of the liaison committee can be more can be a much stronger impact. So we really encourage all of you that have an idea to come to us. We can talk. We can set up a first discussion with NGOs interested, be those NGOs in the region or being those NGOs elsewhere. So inclusion, as I said at the beginning, this is, I would say, really the backbone of our of the action of this committee. So it's really try to be as inclusive as possible. The pandemic has been very hard for all of us, but if there is one thing that we have all learned, is there are things that we can do online, like this one. Of course, in-person meetings are always better, but for an international community of 406 NGOs, I'm convinced that the online is the perfect way to work together, to exchange together, and to be a truly international organization. It was mentioned earlier also by Vicky. We worked a lot. We put a great effort in revitalizing our website. There is a new website which I invite you all to check, which was launched in May 2021. And among other things, you can find the minutes of our meeting, you can find all forthcoming events, but there is a space which is a space that is for you. There is a form where you can put and promote your event within the international community. And we also take those events that are published on our website to be published also on our social media channels, being Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So once again, it's in the spirit of giving you the floor and giving you the best tool to also increase your visibility and increase the action of your NGOs. There was one more event we did this year, sorry, because there was a forum, in-person forum that was planned in 2020 about science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship in support of SDGs. And given the current circumstances, we were forced to do it online. So we reduced this format and we did a webinar on this theme, which you can find it online. This was done less than 1 month ago. And this was mentioned by Vicky. I think there was maybe a slide missing here, but this was mentioned in the forum we did. It was the last forum on global citizenship, which was a huge and a major event that we did at the end of last year, which is online, which all the sessions are online. It was a real, that was the first time that UNESCO, the NGO Liaison Committee, organized an only online event. And we are very happy because it was very successful and we had some 300 participants. What's ahead of us? We are currently working on many things. There are a couple of opportunities if you want to join more the content of the work of what we do. So there will be soon 2 working groups that will work online on strengthening cooperation between NGOs and UNESCO National Commission. This is something that is let's say, the end of a long process that was launched by this committee following the recommendation of the International Conference of NGOs. So there will be two groups that will elaborate recommendation to the entire community and to UNESCO on how to make a better grassroots cooperation between NGOs and UNESCO national commissions. There will be as well, we will launch soon an evaluation of the 2011 directives. As Luis Alberto mentioned, these directives were adopted in 2011, and we want to have from you a feedback of how these directives have been working, how the implementation of this directive, how this can be more efficient. What's your point of view? This is very important. This will be one of the discussion we will have at the next International Conference of NGOs. And it's important because it's your point of view that will feed the general exchange and the general thinking about how the future can look like. And last but not least, I mentioned that we are thinking about building on the young representative group. But last but not least, we already have the dates of the next International Conference of NGOs. It's not yet officially communicated, but an official communication will arrive in your mailbox very soon. But since we have this webinar today, we take the occasion. So please save the dates in your agendas. The International Conference of NGOs will be held in Paris and online from 14th to 16th of December 2022. We would love to see all of you in person in Paris. But as I said, we have put a lot of efforts in also opening up to NGOs that cannot come for whatever reason. So the entire process, the discussion, but also the elections, we will be able to be done online. So we are working on this. Save the dates on our agenda, and we hope to see you very soon. So with this, I thank you. I give the floor back to Vicky, and I think we can open the floor a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Davide. So as I mentioned before, now we have some time for questions and answers. So if you would like to take the floor, please raise your hands.
And don't be shy. We would really love to hear from you. Also, if it's not a question, but it's just a comment, it's fine. But really, this is your opportunity.
Sorry, Davide, maybe I'm Sabina. Just I mean, as you said, we have provided today you with the huge, enormous amount of information. We will try to share, of course, our PowerPoints to you, and we are still free, I mean, available, stand ready to answer to your question after the meeting if necessary, at least from the Secretariat viewpoint.
Yeah, I can see there's one question from Thea Soriano. You can go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon from the Philippines. I'm Thea Soriano. I work with ASBE. And I would just like to say that ASBE has been working with CCNGO as part of the education, the work around SDG 4. And we are also part of Congo, as I indicated in the chat, conference of NGOs in consultative status with the UN. And there are many other CSO mechanisms, but I think with the UN, these are the two, UNESCO and the UN, these are the two conferences that we are part of. So now the liaison committee, I'm asking how do we harmonize this? Because as you mentioned, the liaison committee is also working with CCNGO and I would assume with Congo also. So that's first question. How is harmonization of work across the UNESCO and in particular as we is in education sector? And then the second one, we discussed a lot about, for Congo, we are working with Congo on the SDGs. And in Congo, we had a lot of discussions on the shrinking spaces for NGOs in engaging the UN. So for example, NGOs are given 2-minute interventions in the SDG, in the high-level political forum every year. And even with a 2-minute intervention, we have experienced many times that the civil society are called upon the last. And then when there's no more time, we are told, okay, I'm so sorry, there is no more time for civil society to speak. But of course, we work very closely with UNDESA and the HLPF. So related to the last point, how can this liaison help open up more meaningful spaces for NGOs to engage the UN platforms? So that's those are my 3 points coming from me, and I hope it's okay because to raise these issues, I know this is only introductory orientation for all of us, but I would like to raise these issues which we have been talking about in many meetings already. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Davide, maybe you can give a reply.
Yes, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for taking the floor. And thank you for this very relevant question. I give you a general answer. And well, first of all, there is an important difference between the International Conference of NGOs and the Congo. The UNESCO is still the only intergovernmental organization that has this space for NGOs written in the constitution, because the Congo works a little bit different, is a kind of independent entity that then has the connection with the UN. I agree on the need to harmonize, and I have personally written several times to the president of Congo to try to have an exchange on what can be done together. But unfortunately, the only reply that I've been getting is that there was not so much to discuss, or there was no time to discuss. And this I'm saying really, I mean, in the spirit of that's where the very first email I've sent as president, I've sent email to any kind of NGOs collective mechanism to try to find ways and synergies, because and here it comes the general comment from my side is the most important thing we have is our community. And that's, I think, these regional webinars are one step towards a more important cooperation, because if we do not have the participation of each of you, our voice is weaker. So for me, the first thing to do is try to participate as much as possible in this mechanism, not only on the topic that is the expertise of each organization, but try really to be part of the community. Because when the community will be a true community of 406 NGOs that contributes to the life of the organization, then our weight in interfacing ourselves to other institutions will be much more important. And then I leave the floor. There is another question.
Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Sanjeev Laik.
Yeah, thank you for giving us an opportunity. I represent WASME, World Association for Small and Medium Enterprises. We are located at India here. as you are very much aware of that SMEs are the backbone of any country's economy. My question is basically how this liaison committee, NGO UNESCO liaison committee, will help the SMEs in empower, because you have already you know that the pandemic has already disrupted their businesses and they are the majorly hit.
Davide, are you?
Yeah, how this NGO means UNESCO liaison committee will help the SMEs to empower their businesses? That is the question.
I'm sorry, I had some audio problems. If you can reformulate your question, just repeat. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Sir, WASME represents SMEs, small and medium enterprises. My question is how this NGO UNESCO liaison committee will support the NGO, means SMEs across globe, because you know that the pandemic has already disrupted their businesses and they are the smaller one. So this platform, means how this platform will support them.
I agree.
That is the question.
I mean, I agree. I understand. Thank you very much. So as a general thought, once again, the NGO UNESCO Liaison Committee is not going to substitute to what's the work and the expertise of the single NGOs. But once again, what you can do as NGOs specialized in small, medium enterprise is to bring this topic to the international community of NGOs, to bring this topic to the International Conference of NGOs. And I would say, I work for an NGO, of course, which is an international network with hundreds of thousands of members all around the world. So in my opinion, what you can do and how you can use, WASME can use the platform is to find synergy with other NGOs that are working more or less in the same field, but in other parts of the world or maybe in other subsectors. Because once again, what I think is that when we work together, we are really stronger. So the NGO Liaison Committee directly, I'm afraid, cannot do too much in supporting small, medium enterprise. But what you can do is to use the platform you are part of as NGOs to try to create synergy, raise awareness about the ideals and the values and the challenges you are working for. So it's really, you should see us and the international community as a platform, as a tool to amplify your needs and then to also to bring your needs at the highest level.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable guidance and information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any more questions, we can take one more. Oh, if there's no more questions now, there's still some time after the next presentations for any questions that you may have, so we can move on. Okay then, thank you. So now we're going to be looking a bit more at UNESCO's work in the region. And for this, we have speakers then from UNESCO regional and cluster offices. First of all, I would like to pass the floor to the representative from UNESCO Bangkok office, Ms. Nozoki. And this is the UNESCO Bangkok, Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education and Cluster Office for the Lao People's Democratic Republic, Myanmar, Singapore and Thailand. So I pass the floor.
Yes. Hello, my name is Akane, and it's a very honor to be part of this meeting. Thank you for inviting us. So I'm going to share my screen. Please bear with me. Oops. Would you please let me know if my screen is shared properly?
Yes, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So UNESCO Bangkok works with many NGO partners, and any NGO partners really help with, of course, providing expertise, but also with projects that reach out to specific sections of the community. And also it provides valuable partnership in regards to long-term sustainability of the project. So I will, in my slides, share a non-exhaustive list of the latest projects that we implement, that we collaborate with our NGOs partners. But before I do that, I would like to just briefly introduce UNESCO Bangkok office. So as just mentioned by Vicky, UNESCO Bangkok has a double role as both the Asia Pacific Regional Bureau for Education and as a cluster office. And as a Regional Bureau for Education, the Bangkok office provides assistance to the all Asia Pacific 46 member states and other UNESCO field offices in the area of education. And as a cluster office, UNESCO Bangkok helps to implement all UNESCO programs in Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, PDR, Singapore, and also indirectly in Vietnam and in Cambodia in cooperation with the UNESCO national offices in these two countries. We also have an antenna office in Yangon, Myanmar. And UNESCO Bangkok also hosts the Asia Pacific branch of the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, UIS, which serves to produce data and statistics in the areas covered by the UNESCO mandate. So if I may first start with education. So we have a network group called the Learning and Education 2030 Plus Networking Group, which we call LE 2030 Plus. It's a regional coordination mechanism for education Asia Pacific, and it is co-chaired by UNESCO and UNICEF. And this network group facilitates and supports the regional implementation and monitoring of the 2030 agenda for education. And many agencies you see on the screen from the UN family participates regularly, and many other institutions and civil society have been involved in these initiatives. And the network is welcoming more NGOs involvement. Our education, also under education sector, education for health and well-being section, and early childhood care and education section work with a wide range of NGO partners, which are listed here. So Arrow is a regional nonprofit women's NGO based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation, Leonard Cheshire Disability Foundation, they all work with us on separately, but for advocacy and producing materials in regards to comprehensive sexual education. Plan International, the Asia Pacific Regional Office has collaborated with us on the launching of a regional report. It was a UNESCO global report, but at they were involved in the regional launch. It was the report called When Schools Shut, following the COVID-19, and it was launched as part of the very recent Asia Pacific Regional Education Ministers Conference that just took place 2 weeks ago. So Save the Children is a member of the Regional Technical Working Group on School Health, Nutrition, and Well-being. They have co-authored a thematic brief. Well-being and Youth Lead is a Asia Pacific young network of, it's a network of young key populations that empowers through leadership, education, advocacy, and development. And they are a collaborating partner as a member of the Interagency Task Team on Young Key Populations. Youth Voices Count. We have a pilot activity with them in Korea on youth mobilization for creating LGBTIQ learning environments materials. For early childhood care education, SIL International, Save the Children, ASP-BAE, they are a member of Asia Pacific Multilingual Education Working Group. With Australian Council for Educational Research, they have developed a publication around the impact of COVID-19 on early childhood education in the region. Also, Asia Pacific Regional Network for Early Childhood, they have developed the Teacher Training Handbook for Social and Emotional Learning for ECCE. Going to social human sciences, the unit works also extensively with NGOs in the region. Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact, it's a regional organization. We co-founded the Asia Indigenous Youth Platform, aiming to protect the human rights of Indigenous youth in the region. UNIS Sports Hub is a social business network led by the 2006 Peace Nobel laureate, Professor Yunus, and UNESCO Bangkok has been co-developing a proposal for sustainable sport facilities in cities. International Federation of Muay Thai, based in Bangkok, we have works ongoing on events promoting sports for development. Kota Kita is an Indonesia-based NGO, and it works on inclusive city planning for people with disabilities. Right to Play is an NGO based in Thailand, empowering vulnerable children and young people through innovative ways of play to strengthen their life skills and fulfill their potential. And Bangkok office has been collaborating with them on youth and sports activities. For culture, our partner, a recent main partner is TAEC, Traditional Arts and Ethnology Center. It's a Luang Prabang Lao PDR-based NGO specialized in youth and community-based culture activities. And from documentation of intangible culture heritage, museum collection, and research to school outreach and fair trade retails. So these are on the screen are two recent projects that we have worked with them. For communication and information, Asia Broadcasting Union is a very close partner of UNESCO Bangkok. A recent collaboration includes developing a media award for a project entitled Together for Peace. With Bopana Audiovisual Resource Center. It's an NGO based in Cambodia. They acquire film, TV, photography, and sound archives, and it gives free public access to this precious heritage. And we have developed a capacity building workshop recently with them. Niti Vajra Institute is an academic organization directly under the supervision of the Thai Attorney General, with an aim to improve the Thai justice system to be in line with international principles and standards. And in March this year, Bangkok office organized a training course for prosecutors on crimes against journalists in Bangkok. So these are the non-exhaustive list of projects and our NGO partners that are more recent. And of course, we are all very much open to developing working relationship with many NGOs in the region and around the globe. We also have a public information and outreach unit dedicated to promoting the visibility of our partnership and our collaboration with our partners. So this brings me to the end of my short presentation, and I will hand back the floor to Vicky. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation, which is full of lots of information and really useful information. So just to remind everyone, there'll be questions and answers after the next presentation. So now I'm going to pass the floor to Ms. Zhang, and it's the UNESCO Beijing office, the cluster office for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Japan, Mongolia, the People's Republic of China, and the Republic of Korea.
Thank you very much, Vicky, and thank you, my colleague Akane, who presented the work of UNESCO Bangkok, whom we have been working very closely with. My name is Junju Zheng. I am the Partnership and Resource Mobilization Officer in the UNESCO Beijing Cluster Office. Let me share my screen now. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, you're not in presentation mode though.
Oh, I think I opened the presentation mode.
Maybe if you click on slideshow.
Oh, no.
Now we're seeing your internal screen.
Yeah, I also see that. Okay, let me end the screen and later. Okay. Is it working? I think it's still in the preview mode somehow.
It looks okay now.
Okay, good. Okay, so thank you for inviting me for this regional webinar with NGOs in official partnership with UNESCO. Like I mentioned, we are the UNESCO Beijing Cluster Office for Northeast Asian countries, which include DPRK, Japan, Mongolia, China, and ROK. Our office was established in 1984, and it encompassed the 1/5 of the world's population, around 25% of global economic output, and over 5,000 years of rich history and culture. Our office is actively implementing UNESCO's programs and activities in partnership with stakeholders from all 5 cluster countries. We are also promoting actively North-South, South-South, and triangular cooperation within and outside the cluster countries. Like I already mentioned, we are in very close collaboration with UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok for the regional cooperation with Asia and Pacific countries. Now, I would like to highlight some figures of UNESCO's rich network within our cluster countries. As you can see, we have 25 Category 2 centers, 1,271 ASP.NET schools, 103 World Heritage Sites, 100 Intangible Cultural Heritage, 13 UNIVOC centers, 33 Creative Cities Network, 8 UniTwin, and 39 UNESCO chairs. I also highlighted here that we have already 8 NGOs in official partnership with UNESCO in this cluster region. And I hope this figure is going to grow up very quickly in the future. I also briefly introduced our partnerships. So our office is working with a wide range of different partners, including public sector, such as the Ministry of Education of China, the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea, and also municipality governments of Nanjing, Changsha, and Shunde. They are based in China. We are also receiving great support from enterprises and companies, which include BetaDance, Mercedes-Benz, Phoenix Satellite Television, Shimao Group, Tencent, and others. We, of course, with a wide range of institutions, nonprofit organizations, and foundations, including the Communication University of China, Zhejiang University, Alliance of International Science Organization, the China Adult Education Association, and so on. Thanks to our partners, we are working on various UNESCO's program. And here I would like to highlight some best practice cases our office is working on. First, in education, we responded very quickly to the COVID-19 impact on education. For example, in Mongolia, we supported the government to produce online education resources for primary and middle schools. And in China, we worked with the UNESCO Category 2 Center on Higher Education to supply smart classrooms equipment to several countries around the world. We are also working closely with the UNESCO UNIVOC Center, working on technical and vocational education and training, and we coordinated the experience sharing, which benefited over 2,000 Tibet experts and policymakers. In the field of culture, we have our flagship partnership with the China Youth Development Foundation, Mercedes-Benz Star Fund, on the conservation and management of World Heritage Sites in China. This project has been implementing for over 12 years in more than 50 World Heritage Sites and 139 cultural heritage management institutions in China are benefited from this project. We are also doing many social media campaigns, such as the Intangible Cultural Heritage by Your Side during the 2019 China Cultural and Natural Heritage Day. Now I move on to our program in natural science. I would like to share two cases regarding the International Forum on Science. First is 2019 Man and the Biosphere Reserve Youth Forum. This forum was supported by a private sector called Shimao Group, and it is hosted by the Changbaishan Biosphere Reserve in China. A second case is the Great Rivers Forum in Wuhan, which was supported by the Wuhan municipality since 2018, and we are working with them this year for another Great Rivers Forum. Regarding our social and human sciences program, we are collaborating on youth and peace building with many Chinese partners through the International Youth Forum and the Nanjing Peace Forum, which held parallel sessions in Africa, Arab states, and Central Asia as well. Another case is that we are promoting youth engagement and ethics education in Mongolia through the Model UNESCO debate in Mongolia and the ethics teacher training courses, which received very good feedback from our partner. Last but not least, I would like to introduce our communications and information program. The first is about the United Nations Partnership on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in China. And UNESCO leads the program, and it's jointly implemented by other UN agencies, including ILO, UNDP, UNICEF, and UNFPA. UNESCO also leads the UN theme group on disability, which comprises more than 150 members representing more than 100 key disability stakeholders. Among this group, we also have many NGO partners who is working on disability and contributing to the UN theme group on disabilities theme. Another case is that our office is working on the increasing media and information literacy for children, parents, and teachers via online training learning platform in China. There are many resources available already online, so the NGOs are also welcome to access those resources for the media and the information literacy topic. So there are a couple of ways to work with UNESCO Beijing office. I think the first can be the enhanced interaction with us through events and workshops, trainings, and policy dialogues. And the second is that we can draw out good practice and support the development of efficient partnership platforms with NGOs. And the third is that we can jointly develop initiatives, projects, and social media campaigns to advocate UNESCO's mandate and program. So that's briefly about our UNESCO's program, our office program. If you need more information, you are welcome to access our newsletter and also our annual report through the link and the QR code. I will share my slides right after the meeting. So finally, thank you for listening. If you are interested in working with us, you are welcome to send us an email to make an appointment. We can meet online or physical in China to explore potential cooperation. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. So now we'll have time for questions and answers. If anybody would like to take the floor, please go ahead. So maybe if you have any questions related to either of the presentations or also questions that are left over from the first part of the presentation, please feel free.
And while we wait for a question, I'd like to thank for this very nice presentation, and really I would like to repeat again and also to echoing what the first question we had about shrinking space for NGOs. And I'd really like to say that participation is key. Participation is key to make our community more relevant. And participation is key also for your own area of expertise. And I'd really also thank the two last presentations from our colleagues at UNESCO Regional Office, which shows that the doors are open when and where there are relevant projects, and being official partnership of UNESCO as a meaning of having a facilitated access to cooperating with UNESCO, but also on a general level about NGO space, NGO role in this society, NGO role in the post-COVID world. It's a space that we have, and a space that we have to feed and to be active within that space in order to be more and more relevant. So.
Of course, it's always possible, if you don't have any questions now, then you can write to the people that you wish to ask your questions afterwards. We're also happy to receive any questions that you may have in the liaison committee inbox.
Very good. Then I did already a part of my closing. If there is no question, it was really a pleasure for us to be hosting this webinar and to give you this space. It's a little space, but once again, for us, it's a step more towards more close and efficient cooperation. We really hope to receive not only questions from you, but proposals on the various things that we have advocated, proposal on to organize a celebration of International Days, or proposal on new topics to share and to exchange with the NGO community. And as I said, we really hope to see all of you in person in Paris at the end of the year. But if you cannot do it in person, we are putting all the means, thanks to the help and the support of our colleagues at the UNESCO Secretariat. So we are putting all the means to make also a online participation possible, and not only as listeners, but as a real participant, so a real player of this conference, because the International Conference of NGOs is the privileged moment for all of us to raise our question, to raise our voice, to put our topics, to put our also our proposal for the future, to put it in the roadmap of the liaison committee. So this is really a call for participation. So I thank you once again, the unit in charge for partnership with civil society, Sabina and Luis Alberto in particular, for this webinar. I thank you, our colleagues from the Beijing office and from the Bangkok office. Thank you very much. I thank you, our Vice President here, Vicky Lovelock, and I hope to see you in person or online. The liaison committee is yours, so make a good use of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues.